Men of Reddit. What can you acknowledge is harder for women?
Creepy people following you. My girlfriend walked home from work sometimes. It wasn't far and it was in broad daylight. This guy drove by and asked to give her a ride. She declined, said she was almost home. When she got home she told me about it and how he kept driving up and down the street looking at her afterwards. He followed her into the apartment complex and parked his car to watch her go into the apartment. I was obviously upset. I went out with her so she could point him out, but he had left. It was weird. I told her to call me right away if she sees him anywhere near here.
Never go home if you are being followed. Call somebody, walk into a store, enter an apartment management office, don't let the critters know where you live.
Imagine this but without a boyfriend that cares. Many times, to not say always, cops don't believe you and brush you away. Here in Italy a lot of women ended up tragically because despite of the huge amount of reports they never got helped.
UTIs. My wife will occasionally get a UTI after sex and has to suffer the discomfort and the irritation of trying to get a GP appointment, UK, whilst convincing the witch of a GP receptionist that you want an appointment today.
It does say on the NHS website that if you're prone to UTIs you can get a backup prescription so you can keep antibiotics on hand. It's definitely worth asking your GP about.
Menopause.
Periods.
OMG, exactly, they sure look scary.
I try to help men understand what it's like for us. And this is the best I've come up with. Imagine you have the stomach flu. One of those bad ones with crippling stomach cramps and liquid ass. You're exhausted, you hurt, you generally don't feel good, and your nether regions feel disgustingly in need of a shower. Now imagine this happens every month. You can't just take 3 to 7 days off every month at the last second. You have to go to work, pick up the kids, get dinner, etc. The world at large doesn't gaf that you're miserable, so you just get up and keep going. Hormones can play a part, but tell me if you'd be a bit effing cranky having to function on all of the above.
I once had it described to me as a hand grenade going off in your stomach, and I would really like to not have that every month for a few days. Then, of course, there's all the blood and whatnot.
Birth control. My girlfriend is on an implant and it makes her period hella irregular and so she can bleed intermittently with no warning, so she'll just go to the toilet one day and be bleeding. No prediction of when it will happen. Just, hey, you're bleeding now. How long for? Wouldn't you like to know? Just so we don't have kids we're not ready for. I'm happy to wear a condom, but it's not as safe as using something like the implant or a IUD in terms of family planning. She had to get that poo inserted into her arm with general anesthetic like a badass. And one type of birth control doesn't work for everyone. I've heard my friends talking about how they have to take the pill at the same time every day. I can't even remember to have breakfast most days. I've heard you can get injections that last 3 months and can mess with your mood even on antidepressants. And some women I know will be on birth control because their boyfriend wants it raw. The lengths they go through is ridiculous.
The hormones can really mess you up as well. I used to take the usual mixed hormones pill which gave me migraines strong enough to make me puke from pain. Switched to pure progesterone pill just to develop an ovarian cyst and depression. Now I've got the only reliable thing that doesn't contain any hormones, a copper coil, and it makes my uterus hurt as if it's being stabbed around my period time. A lot of my friends told me how the pill messed them up too. This should be talked about more often.
I get the injections. They're also unpredictable. I had a period for 6 weeks. 6 weeks. And you gain weight from the depot. I'm only on the depot because I have a lot of gyno problems, have 1 1/4 ovary left, and they refuse to take out the last part of my ovary. That's causing a lot of my issues because I'm too young and I might want children. I'm almost 30 and I've never wanted children, but still I don't get choose what to do with my body.
WTFFF? This is your health you're talking about? So a person who is terminally ill can decline treatment as that is their right. But a woman who is experiencing many gyno problems is forced to hold on to an ovary causing these problems because she is not entitled to have a say about her own body. WTFFFFF? Public restrooms always seem have more of a line than men's rooms. Plus, you all get to sit down on every nasty public toilet you have to use. That sucks. This one time at a punk show, I asked where the restroom was. The gentleman pointed to the alleyway outside the venue. I thought, gross, but punk show. Can't exactly complain. So, I release the Kraken and make a piss. When this punk girl strolls up next to me, gives me a sup nod, whips out a plastic penis contraption, and puts my measly little stream to shame. I learned 2 things. Women drew the short straw on restrooms. And punk girls are a different breed.
This summer I drove cross-country to visit my family. We didn't want to have to stop in restrooms, so we thought it would be better to stop on the side of the road. I bought a Shiwi to use, and I have to say they are harder to use than it looks.
I think that's the first time I've heard the Shiwi mentioned on this app. Which, really, is a bit surprising.
I can't properly release while squatting, so I have to wrap the toilet seat with toilet paper and make sure it is completely covered before sitting. Learned super early on to never sit on the toilet in public bathrooms. And honestly, with the way some women treat the bathrooms, I wouldn't want to sit bare ass on it anyway. Some squatters leave pee all over the seat, and you basically have to pick the less disgusting stall. The one with pee on the seat, the clogged one, the one with unflushed poo, the one with poo on the floor, the one with unflushed pee, the one without toilet paper, the one with toilet paper all over the seat and floor, the gurgling toilet. Take your pick.
Peeing outside.
Or just peeing in general. See, we don't gotta sit down whenever we need to pee.
Childbirth.
My wife actually told me today that breastfeeding has been more painful than the childbirth of our daughter. I thought it was interesting because I have never heard that before.
Damn, so many good ones have been said already. A relatively minor thing that I haven't seen yet is hair. Body hair of any kind is often something women are expected to minimize, remove completely. Also, long hair is a bitch to take care of and manage, as I've come to realize by letting my hair grow past my shoulders during the pandemic.
Yep, long hair. How do they do it? And why are women expected to have long hair? One of the weirdest fashion gender defaults beside the women should wear tight clothes, men shouldn't wear tight clothes.
The constant talking down to and the constant looking down upon. I've seen this in all areas of my life, but it became prominent when I was a technical trainer at a large web hosting company. I had a handful of incredibly brilliant women techs that were berated, insulted and mansplained to on an hourly basis by customers either via phone or chat. I mentioned this to the director of our department, who didn't seem to believe me. Unbeknownst to him, I allowed several of the women techs to change their names in our chat program to more male-sounding names. Nothing else about their approach changed, but the results were astonishing. Within the span of the first week, all of their NPS scores skyrocketed. A month into it, several were nominated for Employee of the Month awards. My manager asked me how we were able to turn things around, and I confessed that I let them change their names. I graphed several KPIs to show that nothing else about what they were doing had changed. I would listen to calls where men who would fall just short of saying they didn't believe a woman could know such technical things, only to be transferred to a male tech who provided the exact same information. Only then was it accepted and acknowledged as believable. My hat's off to all women, but a special shout out to women in tech. The amount of bullpoo I've seen you all have to deal with is astounding and embarrassing.
I'm a guy and I was working at an ice cream and candy shop, and this older man comes in and orders some popcorn. As I'm scooping it into the container, he looks at me and says, "Oh yeah, just pack it in." I like it when they pack it in real tight. In an obviously sexual way. It made me uncomfortable, and I bring it up talking to my coworkers, and one of the girls, who was much younger, says, "Yeah, welcome to pretty much every day of my life."
I, male, have spent a lot of my life working in hotels, and learned very quickly that women aren't exaggerating about the poo guys will say to a total stranger. Even with me standing there listening to them try to hit on coworkers, there were people who had zero shame, filter, or sense of human decency. There are some real effing creeps out there.
Yeah, when I worked as a hostess when I was 16, a 50-year-old man stared at me his entire time at the restaurant. Then when he came up to pay, he suggested that he would kidnap and RP me.
Jesus, I'm sorry you had to go through that. I feel like a lot of the older male generation almost feel entitled to act this way. It's disgusting, but it was basically normalized back in the day. Hopefully we can all be more aware as a society as we move forward.
Working the service industry or retail was really bad because of this. It would happen multiple times a day when I worked at a restaurant. It's especially bad when your tips are based on how nice you are. So if I said something, there goes my tip. Also, they will leave a bad review because I didn't just sit there and take it. I remember one of the first times a guy grabbed my ass. One of the other waitresses said I would get used to it.
First of all, periods. Hats off to you all for handling them. Next, being forced to be aware of your surroundings anywhere you go. Like you always have a fear of a bad encounter. And finally, not being acknowledged while being out with a man. Many times I went to restaurants or shopping with someone, everyone always comes up to me instead of my date. One time during shopping for PC parts, I had to state that she wants to buy something. Not I, after many times of telling the salesman to ask her.
Ha ha, it's happened to me a few times that I go into a shop with a male friend. I buy things for us. I hand over my money to pay and the shop assistant gives my change to the dude I'm paying for. Nice.
As an Indian man, literally their entire lives.
Indian man here too, can attest. Arranged marriage is a part of culture. It's hit or miss. Sometimes it's literally a nightmare if she ends up with a douchebag. Super defined gender roles everywhere. Divorced women are essentially second-rate citizens here. And there is zero sex education. Female orgasms are a myth.
I effing hate tradition in India. Women cook, women eat after the men, women clean up. F that poo. When I'm there I try my best to get the women in the family to eat with us, then you best bet my ass is helping clean that poo up afterwards. Also, the way men often have a grasp over women is disgusting, as well as the fact that domestic abuse is pretty common in India. It's an issue that's difficult to tackle as the police are corrupt and don't care.
Especially in rural India, cooking, cleaning, washing clothes, even their husbands' undergarments is considered to be women's responsibility.
Pretty girls getting sent creepy DMs. My sister just turned 13 years old, and is a good-looking girl. Countless times has she showed me messages on Snapchat between her and some dude's 4-inch penis. Disgusting. Edit. People are replying to my comment saying, why should a 13-year-old girl have Snapchat? Why does my father allow her to be on Snapchat? How do people know her face on Snapchat? Taking light out of the real problem at hand. The problem isn't her having social media, the problem is her being unwilling looking at DKS from strangers.
My friend used to have an image of a penis saved, so she could send a DK in return. That usually creeped them out. Alternatively, she sometimes would send a family member a notice that their son, brother, nephew, grandson was sending out pictures of his penis.
A bunch of girls in my class at school got sent a bunch of DMs from some guy on Instagram the other day asking all of them if they needed a sugar daddy. The guy was 36 and the girls in my class are 13 to 14 years old.
Yesterday my 12-year-old niece got asked if she wanted to F, quoting here, not my choice of words. When she said no, he told her he would beat her up. Needless to say, I had an interesting conversation with that boy's mother.
Getting catcalled. Specifically, I'm a guy that got catcalled a lot in high school and college. I ran distance in tiny short shorts and that's it, and got everything from whistles to honks, girls blowing kisses to guys yelling FAAAAG out of their car windows, to gay guys slapping my ass or complimenting me. I took it in stride, none if it ever bothered me, and that kind of colored my opinion of catcalling, not that I approved of it, but that it wasn't that big a deal. Then I had a girlfriend in college, and she got catcalled while I was walking her home at night. It was a distinctly different experience. Turns out I never once felt threatened by my catcallers, but hers were definitely scary and threatening. It was a completely different experience, and really pooty and frightening.
It's really scary cause I know every man I meet is stronger than me. If one decides to grab me or get violent I have little way of defending myself.
My husband and I were talking about the problem with catcalling with his mum and he told me I had never been catcalled. I had to remind him that he was there the last time it happened and it was about a week ago from the current conversation. We were at an air show and during an intermission we ran back to our truck to reapply sunscreen. A group of guys didn't see my husband and started yelling pooty things at me while I was rubbing sunscreen all over my chest. They stopped when he came into view and said something while I took it in stride. I had to lay out to him that a group of men were yelling sexual things at me while I was seemingly alone at my truck in a mostly deserted parking lot, a field really, and that this is why I carry a mag light in the truck for all the good it does when the altercation is 1 to 5.
Obviously, I can only speak from my own, female, experience, but I think it's a fear thing. There's the knowledge that if my catcaller wanted to, they probably could overpower me if they wanted to take it to a physical place. Sexual harassment is never okay towards any gender though, and I'm sorry you experienced it.
This is a refreshing question for Reddit. Being taken seriously is still a big one. Some women take their partners to places like mechanics just so they don't try to screw him over.
Yes. My husband doesn't even know how to drive, but I bring him with me to the mechanic because otherwise I get nothing but patronizingly delivered minimal information and inflated prices. It drives me effing nuts.
Have you ever seen that a very high percentage of women suffer some type of harassment, like in the high 90%s? Well, I never realized, but it's absolutely true, and I hate how they have to deal with it.
Finding clothes with pockets. I've only recently been made aware that women's trousers pants don't usually come with pockets that are actually deep enough to keep anything in there. Fashion is weird.
Dude F companies who still refuse to make women's clothing with pockets that aren't literally 2x plus the price of other clothes. They're trying to keep purses a thing. It's dumb. Give women pockets.
As a man, I thought it must be great to be able to have sex with so many people. I thought it was good that a woman could count on a one-night stand at the bar. As I got older, I realized that women also have to walk through a world where a lot of men want to F them and many men don't care how they get there. Lying, getting women drunk or DGing them, or flat out RP. Men they may know, or complete strangers, or even close relatives. That must be far harder than having to impress a woman to have consensual sex.
There's also the fact that the random one-night stand is likely uninterested in getting you off. Better to just masturbate with a sex toy because there's a guarantee of pleasure with no risk of harm from a stranger.
Feeling safe in general, whether it be outside after a certain your parties, going to dates with someone new, etc. etc. From the stories I hear from friends and acquaintances, it's pretty scary sometimes. Also less impactful, but gaming. When a girl is gaming, it's always dudes telling he that she's a pick-me girl, that she only plays Minecraft, that she doesn't know poo, etc. etc. Just am being disrespectful and annoying poos. Edit, it's even worse in places like Mexico, where I'm from and as my frame of reference. Edit, our asterisk not your. And her asterisk not he.
Yeah, and sometimes attacks can come out of nowhere. I was sitting on the patio at a restaurant when a couple of teenagers walked up to me and slapped a glass out of my hand as I was drinking out of it. The force snapped my neck around, and I wound up with a cervical concussion. Lovely. Turns out these people were walking around this upscale mall assaulting women and old men. Basically, anyone who looked too small or frail to fight back. No, the cops didn't catch them. The way people react to that story is so crazy too. Almost everyone swears they would have been able to not get hit, somehow. Like it's my fault I didn't get out of the way or something. Really, I'm just a very short and small female, easy target. These pooty kids literally just walked up and hit me. I tell people, you know what? If you were me, they would have done the same thing to you and there wouldn't be a thing you could have done about it either. It was so random and so fast. You just have the benefit of not looking like an easy target, so no one has ever assaulted you. Ask any small woman who has been around for a bit. We all have a story or two about bad people targeting us for creepiness or violence.
Being encouraged to say no, and frequently getting punished when they do. It's F-Ed.
I have a related issue here. My girlfriend is from the Ukraine and she is amazing and I love her deeply. She does not ever say no, however. I didn't think about it early in our relationship, because I'm used to the women I'm with telling me what it is they need or want from me, not just sexually, but in other aspects of life as well. So when I figured out my girlfriend doesn't say no even when she really wants to, I stopped asking her to do things. I stopped initiating sex. I stopped asking for her to make coffee or dinner or laundry. I did the things myself instead, because I do not want to take advantage of her. This led to one of our biggest fights. I communicated to her that she is allowed to say no if I want something, and that no matter how I felt about it, I would never hurt her, and that she's well within her rights to do so. But she took the whole thing in a bad way, and told me she felt like less of a woman for not tending to my needs. I don't know what to do in the future, but I'm adamant about her saying no, and I keep telling her that if she doesn't want something, no will make it stop right away, no questions asked. Don't want to make dinner tonight? No problem, I'll do it. No need to have an excuse, or explain. I don't have excuses or explain why I don't want to do things beyond, I don't want to right now, and neither should she need to. I'm writing all this because I feel like I'm taking advantage of a person I love, and I don't want to do that. But at the same time, this person is instilled with the ideology that women tend to the home and their man. Not the other way around. So if anyone had experience with this kind of relationship, I'd love suggestions, preferably from women. No need to tell me why if you don't want to. But if you have a solution or an idea on how to make my wonderful girlfriend realize that she is worth the same respect and power over self as anyone else, and that she is under no obligation to serve me in any capacity, please let me know. I'm trying hard to pick up more chores around the apartment to split it halfway, and I encourage her to decide things for herself as much as is possible. And I always take no for an answer. She never has to explain it or excuse it. It is always okay to say no, and she knows that she is loved and safe no matter what she says no to.
Making guy friends who aren't secretly trying to bang you.
Holy poo. Where do I start? 1. Childbirth. Everything I see or hear about it is just unpleasant and painful. 2. The body clock and pressure to have children, especially in your 30s. 3. Sexism and bias in the workplace. Yep, it's still there in many forms and it really disappoints me that it is. 4. Online communities and the comments, messages. What the F, guys? 5. Being heard. How often do you see or hear women being talked over? So much more. I feel so much for the women in my life, my wife, my mom, my friends, and what they have to deal with. If I have a daughter, I'll be scared for what she'll face.
Being taken seriously in certain male-dominated fields. It, especially programming, even if they know their poo, there is still a sexist stigma of dismissing them as not knowing what they are doing, not as good as male counterparts. I find it frustrating. I welcome more women in the programming field. Disappointed.
Having small to no pockets in the jeans.
F that. I'm a woman. Not only no pockets but fake pockets?
Occupying space for no apparent reason became much easier. That's what I am 61 remember reading from a woman journalist who disguised herself as a man for day. She noted that the ability to simply stand or sit any place you like is a privilege men take for granted. That really stayed with me. And yes, I have to agree that's true.
Getting immediate respect. I know this is so much easier for men. I feel sorry for women who have to go through this, and I do give them the respect they deserve.
Guys, I just want to say, as a female, reading this made me cry. Thank you for acknowledging this poo, especially the general lack of safety we feel. It's too real. It gives me so much hope.
Progressing in a career while still wanting to have children.
There are other more thoughtful and complex replies, but I'll just mention the term, working moms. I recognize it was created to identify women who have children and continue to work, as that whole concept is a somewhat recent one, at least in the USA. But I've never heard the use of the term, working dads. And I think it highlights that society expects the burden of child rearing to fall on women, and how that can impact our work life. Edit. Some good points have been brought up about the term, working moms, in that it's a term that most likely picked up steam when wealthy white women who had the choice to work outside the home, did so. Poor women, especially poor WOC, did not and still don't have the choice to not work outside the home. Not to mention the definition of work, as only being outside of the house and paid.
Feeling comfortable walking home alone after dark, unfortunately.
I used to live in a not great area of South London, New Cross for anyone wondering. On the way home from the bus stop was a long, L-shaped alley that went round a warehouse with a high bank on the other side. It was effectively a long dark tunnel. The L shape also meant you would often get a surprise encounter with someone coming the other way at the bend. One night I was walking home and there was a woman walking ahead of me, looking kind of nervous. I already was going through that whole, oh God, she thinks I am following her, thing. But I manned up and called to her, asking if she wanted me to go ahead through the alley. She accepted so gratefully that it made me realize what a relieving thing it was for her. I started doing this anytime the situation arose. I don't think I have ever had a woman refuse the offer.
I'm a pretty scary looking guy and it makes me feel so bad when I think I've scared a woman walking home. The other day I actually took the long way home because the woman in front of me kept looking over her shoulder, only to see her again right outside my flat. She looked directly at me and whipped out her phone. I just walked straight past and went inside, but man, I hate the feeling that I'm scaring someone like that.
Healthcare, effing healthcare. I'm T1 diabetic and arguably have more issues than my girlfriend does. I'm overweight, so is she, but she's making way more progress than I've been on getting the weight off. My A1C's a tad elevated, so on and so forth. My doctor is really cool with me, and I've not had a bad time finding doctors who have been extremely supportive of me and trying to help me get my health back on track. My girlfriend? 90% of doctors she has tried to see just look at her and act like her weight is the source of every one of her problems, even though she's been making huge strides at losing weight and showing a downward trend in weigh-ins. She gets written off more times than I can count, and is treated the same way as someone who is non-compliant and doesn't want to improve, even though she does, and is. Gonna edit in another example here. My girlfriend has been told that due to her weight she's at risk for T2 diabetes. Even though she has been working like hell to get weight off, and while her blood sugar has bounced around a few times, it's mostly due to other issues, not the coming of T2 diabetes. Still, didn't stop one of her previous doctors from basically being like, shut up and take the metformin like everyone else, you can't outrun T2 diabetes, and threw a T2 diabetes diagnosis on her chart. Her current doctor retracted it because in her eyes she's nowhere near needing metformin, having a T2 diagnosis on her chart. A lot of doctors have told her to just get weight loss surgery and pretty much get out of their faces. It took her so long to find a doctor who is willing to work with her and actually look deeper into the problems she does have instead of just saying, "You're fat, GTFO." And then there was also the time when she had to have a biopsy done and her old ob-gyn removed her birth control implant while she was sedated and * without telling her at all, *. And then they refused to give her another one, putting her on a waiting list for one but never actually going through with it. She eventually had to just call Planned Parenthood and they took care of it within a day. I posted this story among my friends and quite a few of them came forward with similar issues with not getting taken seriously just because they're a woman. Oh, and let's not forget the whole, I want my tubes tied but my doctor won't let me because I'm too young and I might change my mind, or my husband needs to sign off on it. Women have so little agency over their bodies that it's effing sickening.
Women's pain also isn't taken as seriously. I was 39 weeks pregnant with upper abdominal pain and the I went to just treated me like a addict seeking pain meds, rather than taking me seriously. Upper abdominal pain in pregnancy is a major red flag. Turns out I had a severe form of preeclampsia called HELLP syndrome, and not only had the doctors ignored red flags, so had my OBs, yes plural. More than one OBGYN had heard my complaints and brushed me off as a hysterical pregnant lady. Edit. I should mention that, as a result of these doctors' misogyny, my son died 2 days before my scheduled C-section.
Yep, excellent example, dental pain. I had a root canal that was hurting really bad when it was gnarly. Since being treated, I got handed a prescription for Norco and sent on my way. No questioning. Roommate who had her wisdom teeth pulled and was in some ridiculously gnarly pain? Oh no, just fist some ibuprofen and ride it out, you'll be fine. Which is what she was already doing, and it wasn't working. My girlfriend actually called in on her behalf and absolutely tore into her dental office over that, and they were being ridiculously cagey over doing anything for my roommate, but finally reluctantly agreed to give her something stronger. I think it comes from this allegation that because women deal with periods, giving birth and such, they have a higher pain tolerance than men. Which is likely true but nowhere does that mean that women should be allowed to suffer just because they can take it better than men can. Edit should have mentioned that the likely true just stems from my own experience with the women I know, or maybe I just suck at taking pain. Either way, it was a bad assumption to make, so I'm retracting it.
Periods and the fact that tampons, pads are taxed, sales tax, are you pooting me?
But men's razors aren't taxed as they're not luxury item. 'Cause tampons are so luxurious. There's a few things. 1. Being taken seriously. Men are seen as having natural tendencies towards leadership, and the unfortunate fact is that women aren't seen as natural-born leaders. Women have to work harder to establish authority and, after having done so, can be seen as cold and unladylike. This is how women are associated with being a bitch. This affects both the workplace and family life. https://www.psychology.today.com/us/blog/he-speaks-he-speaks/201902/follow-the-leader-authority. 2. Purity standards. Men don't have a purity test because of the old adage of boys will be boys. Women have a pressure to be virgins, pure and untouched. We then treat them as delicate flowers that could only be protected by a man. Not being pure means being a slut and unworthy of true love. https://neuroleadership.com/your-brain-at-work/peter-glick-on-how-benevolent-sexism-undermines-women. 3. The blame. Women are blamed for men's bad behavior. Women are told to not dress in provocative ways that could tempt men. When women are RPD, they are questioned why they were there in the first place. https://ms-magazine.com/2019/05/30/why-do-we-scapegoat-women-for-men's-bad-behavior/. 4. Beauty standards. Look at women's beauty routines. Skin routines, manicuring, plucking, waxing, shaving, makeup. Women have to be thin, or is it THICC now? Big boobs, no, wait, big butts or both? As a man, I have to worry about a fraction of the things women worry about. I could go on, but this has come up recently with my wife and female friends in our group. Women have a bad deal because no matter what they do, they can't win. It's been making me have hard conversations with men in my life and the need for us to be better. To recognize the ingrained sexism and change our behavior. It's been very surprising to get the pushback that I have from what I considered progressive men that are pro-women. They end up falling to Trump-like reasonings with whataboutisms and overly protective arguments about how they aren't like that, or they don't know any men like that. It's time to talk less and listen more to women. I'm thankful and happier that my wife has led me to these conclusions.
Most things, I'd assume. I get mistaken for a girl pretty often and the sexual harassment is like really excessive, goddamn.
Literally everything. I have no trouble admitting that. It's easier for me to get up and out in the morning because I don't have to deal with makeup or picking an outfit that people haven't already seen. I don't have periods. I got a well-paid job straight out of university through a friend's dad. I climbed the ladder with relative ease, while my wife wasn't taken seriously, then took multiple hits, demotions and constructive dismissals for being of childbearing age, having a kid, and then having another. We've been together for 10 years, and she's only just overtaken me in earnings, despite having multiple degrees and being way smarter than me. I can walk around at night and not worry about anything. I can play games online without being called names relating to my sex. I won't ever have to squeeze a baby out of my vag, have a baby physically cut out of me, or breastfeed. I won't ever have to go through an abortion. If I ever speak out against sexist behavior, I'm not immediately shot down by most of the opposite sex online. Clothes sizes are based on physical dimensions, not arbitrary numbers. My jeans have pockets. All my clothes are machine wash, without me having to check. I never get told I'm too attractive or too unattractive, and I've never been accused of using my looks to get places. I'm not regularly objectified, stared at, or catcalled. When I talk, people listen and take me seriously. I'm sure there's more that I can't think of right now. Maybe I'll add them as I go along.
Thank you for watching. We upload new videos every day, so be sure to come back for more fun. Please consider liking and subscribing if you enjoyed the video.